In a tranquil agricultural settlement, a devoted deer keeper met a violent end at the hands of the very creature he raised. How did a beloved companion turn on its caretaker? In the tranquil agricultural settlement of Moyu nestled in Victoria's northeastern expanse, a 47-year-old man met a violent end at the hands of the very creature he had nurtured, raised, and placed his faith in for many years. It was not a predator from the wilderness, nor a ferocious beast that had escaped the bush. It was his companion, an immense red deer hybrid, which without provocation attacked him, what compelled a seemingly placid creature to unleash such sudden lethal fury. And could this harrowing incident have been averted? This is the shocking final account of an experienced deer keeper, whose serene country existence concluded in a manner almost too horrific to fathom. Before we begin, remember to like this broadcast, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our authentic wildlife narratives. And now welcome to Animal Quest channel, where genuine encounters collide with untamed nature. The individual was 47 years old, a devoted parent, a loving spouse, and a man deeply rooted in the land. This person resided in the rural community of Moyu, situated in the picturesque King Valley area of northeastern Victoria, Australia. A locale recognized for its undulating farmlands, vineyards, and vast open skies, it was the sort of place where neighbors knew one another, where farm machinery shared thoroughfares with kangaroos, and where existence flowed with the cadence of the seasons to those acquainted with them. This person was calm, generous, and down-to-earth. They had lived on their property for years with their spouse, Mandy MacDonald, and their adolescent child. The family maintained a degree of privacy, but was highly respected within the community. Local inhabitants described the deceased as someone who never caused trouble, who diligently worked and attended to their own affairs. Yet what distinguished this individual was an uncommon enthusiasm. While others tended to cattle or sheep, this person opted to care for something considerably less conventional. A male red deer, reportedly a hybrid involving elk or wapiti, a colossal antlered animal they had reared since its youth for over 6 years. The MacDonald family kept the creature on their land within a fenced enclosure. This was not a zoological garden or a nature reserve. It was a family farm, a place of reliance, custom, and familiarity. To this person, the animal was more than just livestock. It was something closer. It had been with the household for years, fed daily, observed, and watched as it matured from a cautious young stag into a massive, muscular adult buck. It remains unclear if the deer had been given a name, but what is evident is that the individual placed profound trust in it. They believed it was harmless, but beneath that trust lurked a peril, a fundamental truth about wild creatures. No matter how long they are kept in captivity, no matter how accustomed they become, their primal instincts never dissipate, not with the passage of time, not with meticulous attention, and certainly not with affection. This person's narrative prompts a disturbing inquiry. Would you ever keep a wild animal as a companion? Share your thoughts in the comments, because for this individual, that choice, whether born of curiosity, devotion, or sheer admiration for the animal, would ultimately culminate in a devastating end. And as we will discover, the subtle, quiet danger signals were already present, simmering just beneath the surface. The animal kept by this individual was no ordinary deer. It was a crossbreed between a red deer and a wapiti, also known as elk. A towering species native to North America, renowned for its immense power, aggressive tendencies, and formidable antlers that can stretch over 12 meters wide. The practice of crossbreeding red deer and elk is not uncommon in agricultural circles, often undertaken for their impressive size and meat yield. However, that sheer size carries inherent dangers, particularly during one perilous time of year, the rutting season. This is the annual breeding period for male deer and elk, when their testosterone levels surge, causing their behavior to become erratic, combative, and at times violent. Experts across Australia have long cautioned that even deer raised in captivity can become lethal during the rut. These are not domesticated animals. They are not cows, horses, or even canines. They do not form bonds with humans in the way one might hope. And the moment the hormonal shift commences, instinct assumes control. According to wildlife biologists, males during the rut become intensely territorial, frequently attacking anything they perceive as a rival or a threat. Other creatures, inanimate objects, even people, This person's deer likely weighed well over 200 kg, approximately 450 pounds, boasting a dense winter coat. Hooves capable of crushing bone, and a set of hardened pointed antlers, designed by nature for a singular purpose. Combat. Most farms that house such animals adhere to stringent precautions during the rut. Restricted contact, physical barriers, isolation. But this individual did not operate an industrial farm, equipped with commercial-grade fencing, or advanced safety protocols. What they possessed was a rudimentary enclosure on their rural property, secured by standard fencing sufficiently robust for typical conditions, but perhaps inadequate for a 450 lb wild animal, consumed by hormonal rage. Still, they had reared the deer for 6 years. They believed it trusted them. They had entered that enclosure hundreds of times before. It was merely routine, but that is the peril of routine. It obscures the subtle shifts. A gaze that lingers a second too long, a breath held slightly tighter. The way an animal subtly turns its body towards you instead of away. These are signs that for seasoned handlers scream danger, but for someone like this individual, a person who genuinely cared for this animal, such signals may have been effortlessly overlooked. It wasn't just a companion. It was a ticking time bomb, and no one perceived the danger. It was Wednesday morning, April 17, 2019. Just after daybreak, the town of Moyu was gradually awakening, bathed in the pale golden light of early autumn on their rural homestead. The individual stepped outdoors, likely with a cup of coffee in hand, their boots crunching on the dew-covered grass. It was a customary morning, one they had repeated hundreds of times. Feed the animals, inspect the fencing, attend to the land. They proceeded toward the enclosure, where the red deer-elk hybrid awaited. To this person, this was not merely a chore. It was a predictable, familiar rhythm. They understood the deer's moods, or so they believed. What they did not know, what no one knew, was that, on this particular day, the animal had undergone a profound change. The rutting season was in full swing. The deer's testosterone had surged, and something deep within its brain, some ancient primal reflex, had seized control. As the individual entered the pen, the deer exhibited no hesitation. There was no cautionary growl, no anxious pacing, only sudden explosive violence. It charged in mere seconds. The individual was on the ground, utterly defenseless. The deer slammed into them with its massive antlers, then rose onto its hind legs, and descended with brutal force. Repeatedly, hooves the size of dinner plates crushed into the individual's chest and head, and sharp antler points repeatedly punctured their body. The assault was not random. It was targeted, savage, instinctive. The animal was treating them as a threat or a rival, and it would not relent. Mandy MacDonald, the spouse of the deceased, heard the commotion. Perhaps it was a shout, or the sound of something crashing. She was nearby on the property, possibly heading towards the pen, and when she witnessed what was unfolding, she did not hesitate. She rushed directly into the enclosure, straight towards the beast. But it saw her too. The deer redirected its fury onto her, slamming her to the ground. Antlers descended once more, this time striking her back and legs. She cried out, struggling to crawl away, as the animal reared up again, and then a second figure appeared. Their adolescent child, witnessing the unspeakable race toward the chaos, with no weapon, no means of protection, only raw desperation. The child seized the first object they could find, a stick. And with that stick, they fought. They swung at the deer, they shouted, they threw their own body between their parents and the animal. It worked, at least for a moment. The deer faltered, stepped back. The child seized that precious moment to grasp their mother, drag her out of the enclosure, and summon assistance. Emergency services were dispatched. Swiftly, paramedics and police arrived at the scene on Upper Ryans Creek Road, just outside Moyu. But for the individual, it was too late. They perished at the scene from their injuries. Mandy was airlifted to Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, suffering from severe wounds to her upper body and legs. Their child, though injured and deeply shaken, survived. What began as a tranquil morning transformed into a nightmare in under 5 minutes. A routine chore, a family moment ripped apart by a creature they believed they understood, and yet the warning signs had been there all along. Within minutes of the attack, emergency services were on site at the MacDonald property on Upper Ryans Creek Road near Moyu. Paramedics, police officers, and a medical helicopter crew arrived amidst the tense and chaotic scene. But despite their rapid response and desperate efforts, the individual was pronounced deceased at the scene. The severity of their injuries was overwhelming. Multiple deep puncture wounds and severe trauma inflicted by the animal's powerful antlers and Hooves, their spouse Mandy MacDonald, was swiftly transported by air ambulance to the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne. She was in critical condition, battling injuries that included fractured bones and deep lacerations. Her survival was a testament to both her resilience and the swift intervention of her child, who had repelled the animal and called for aid. Law enforcement officers made a difficult but essential decision for the safety of the family and the broader community. The red deer elk hybrid was euthanized on the property. The animal's aggressive behavior during the rutting season had proven too perilous. The tragedy sent shock waves through the small town of Moyu, and beyond. Local residents struggled to comprehend how such a loving family could be torn apart by an animal they had deeply cared for. The story quickly disseminated, attracting national and international media attention. A spokesperson for Victoria Police stated in the days following the attack the animal was rutting season and displayed aggressive mating behavior. This tragic incident highlights the dangers of keeping wild animals, even those raised in captivity. Wildlife experts echoed the warning, emphasizing the unpredictable nature of hybrid animals, especially during their breeding season, and the critical importance of proper management and safety protocols. The MacDonald family's devastating loss served as a grim reminder. Sometimes the inherent wildness within an animal cannot be domesticated, no matter the extent of affection and care it receives. Why did this occur? Let me clarify. April in Victoria signifies a crucial period in the animal calendar for male red deer and wapiti, commonly known as elk. This is the rutting season. It is a time when nature's powerful instinct assumes complete command. During this phase, testosterone levels in males surge dramatically, transforming even the most docile animals into aggressive territorial combatants. Their focus narrows, fixating on anything that could challenge their dominance, including the humans who have cared for them for years. Experts explain that the hormonal surge triggers unpredictable behavior, charging, striking, and defending territory at all costs. And while the red deer elk hybrid of the deceased had been raised in captivity, the wild instincts deeply embedded within its DNA could never be entirely eradicated. Compounding the danger is the fact that in parts of Australia, keeping large and exotic hybrid animals is not as strictly regulated as traditional pets. Unlike dogs or cats, there are fewer rules governing containment training or veterinary checks for hybrids like the animal. Involved wildlife behaviorists who reviewed the case have been unequivocal. This tragedy was not a random anomaly. It was in fact entirely predictable given the animal's natural cycle and the inherent risks associated with keeping such a creature on a rural property without specialized facilities. As one expert articulated during rutting, these animals are simply not safe to be around, even if they appear docile for the remainder of the year. The MacDonald family's heartbreaking destiny underscores a vital lesson. Some animals, regardless of the affection they receive, remain wild, and their intrinsic nature can erupt with deadly consequences. Australia possesses a long and complex history, with exotic companions from camels traversing the outback to venomous snakes kept in suburban residences. Incidents of attacks have transpired across the nation. Deer and other large wild animals are no exception. While they may appear calm and familiar, experts caution that their wild instincts never fully vanish, irrespective how much they are raised among humans. Wildlife authorities underscore that taming is not synonymous with domesticating, and that wild animals, particularly hybrids, can revert to dangerous behavior without any prior indication. The tragic death of the individual has become a significant reference point in Victoria's ongoing discussions concerning animal control laws and public safety. A safety advisory from the Victoria Department of Environment, Land, Water, and Planning explicitly states, "We urge the public not to domesticate wild animals, no matter how safe they appear. The risks are real, and the consequences can be fatal. Could more stringent regulations, improved public education, or alternative choices have saved this person?" The answer weighs heavily on every pet owner who ventures to keep the wild within their home. The individual was a person defined by their profound affection for animals and the rural existence they held dear. For over 6 years, they nurtured a creature that was both majestic and untamed, a red deer elk hybrid that had become an intrinsic part of their family's world. But on that fateful day, in April 2019, that bond was irrevocably shattered. Nature's indomitable instincts erupted in a brutal assault. that claimed the individual's life in the quiet fields near Moyu, Victoria. Their spouse Mandy MacDonald survived, but will carry both the physical and emotional scars of that day for the remainder of her life, their adolescent child who bravely intervened. Witnessed a tragedy no family should ever have to endure. This narrative stands as a solemn reminder. Nature has inherent boundaries lines that when transgressed bring consequences. We cannot reverse. The deceased trusted the animal for 6 years, but in one terrifying instant, it transformed into a killer. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more authentic and compelling animal encounter documentaries. We value your input. Have you ever experienced a close call with a wild animal? Share your story below. Thank you for watching and stay safe. Want to explore more ideas? Follow for more.